Ladies and gentlemen, or just all the ladies. Oh, I needed that. I was dying. I'm dying here. How's everybody? We are now at the desk. You know what we call this desk. It's the magic desk. I'm not Magic Mike. I'm Magic Rob. And here at the magic desk, we make things magically happen. Okay? I'm going to start learning. Actually, I was thinking about learning some magic. I was thinking about learning magic because I think doing magic tricks would be pretty good for the show. I think it would bring a different level of excitement to the show. I think people would love the magic. I can pull rabbits out of hats. I can do like card tricks. I like card tricks. I could do like David Blaine stuff where I take the card and then I tell you to pick a card, and then you pick the card and I show you the card and then I put the card back and then I tell you to like pull your pants down and you have the card you picked on your butt cheeks, and I'm like, is that the card? And then there's the butt cheek card and you're like, whoa, wow, it was, how did you put it on my ass? Whoa! I'm thinking about doing things like that. I think the magic would really up the feel of the show, but some people might disagree. Anyways, I wanted to touch on a subject that we've addressed here on the Rob Black Show a bunch of different times, written some articles on it, and it is a subject that I don't think will ever die. Like when you hear a story, like me and young Katie were talking about the Redskins and the name on the Redskins, and the fact that you have people like Jon Stewart and South Park doing jokes on it, and Katie said, wow, they're really putting a lot of effort into the conversations that people are having when it comes to the name of a football team. And I thought to myself, it was also a conversation that was taking place a month or two ago, and how long can you really talk about that subject? Well, this subject that I'm going to bring up right now is something that doesn't have an expiration date because it is so important, because it's ongoing, and every single day that we are in war in Syria and Iraq, and there is no voice from Congress, which in turn is the American people, it keeps this topic alive and well and debatable. So basically over the weekend, everybody's favorite Bang, John Boehner, did a interview. And it's funny, once again, that you have members of Congress doing interviews on their vacation. And they are either criticizing the president, or they're criticizing policy, or they're criticizing each other. But it's all in a place that really doesn't matter. Because the only time any of this matters, the only time any of this is on record, is that on Capitol Hill is being when Congress is in session. Rather, it's committee meetings, votes, you name it. The only place that criticizing the president and rallying support amongst your base and your other, rather it's congressmen or senators, whatever it is, aides, whoever you could get to be part of your army. It only matters in Washington. Sitting in your house doing an interview with Bloomberg, or doing an interview with Jake Tapper, or doing an interview with Anderson Cooper, is all theater. And that's all it is. So, John Boehner gave an interview over the weekend, and every time the leadership in the Republican Party speak, I really want to reach through the TV and stab them with this pen. I do. I really do. Because the things they say are so ludicrous, and they go against the things they said 2 months ago. Now, let me bring you back to reality real quick so we could set this conversation up. For the last 2 years, it's actually for the last almost 6 years that the president has been in office, we have heard nothing but this president being a dictator, this president being worse than Hitler and Stalin. And at any rally from Republicans to Tea Partiers to Sarah Palin, you have people that are saying the most horrific things about this president. They have pictures of this president dressed as Hitler. Things that were never done, ever done to Ronald Reagan or George Bush Sr. Or even George Bush Jr. You know, when people say Obama was or is the most criticized president, you get people that literally from the right will say, "You're insane. Look what the media did to George Bush. Everybody was horrible to him." That's really bullshit, because 9/11, and the day George Bush stood on top of the rubble in 9/11 and the World Trade Center and the pieces of burnt out building, and spoke into that megaphone, his approval rating was like 99.9%. The day he stepped foot in a airplane, in a fighter jet on the aircraft carrier with banners that said "Mission Accomplished," his approval rating was 99.999%. George Bush literally did what he wanted when he wanted, and you couldn't say a word about that president. The goddamn Dixie Chicks talked bad about the president, and basically their career went down to the toilet. Their career went to the toilet faster talking bad about the president than Mel Gibson's career went when he was calling cops dirty Jews, and his wife telling her he hoped she got fucked by raped by a bunch of Negroes. Okay? The Dixie Chicks were villainized to the point where they had rallies where people were burning their music. I mean, they literally got thrown out of the music industry. Country music said, "You can't talk about our president." Toby Keith and every country yahoo said, "Dixie Chicks, fuck you." To the point where they were done. Like, they literally broke up and disbanded because nobody would book them. Nobody would buy their music. They were done. President Bush didn't start to take criticism until after everybody's feelings subsided about the impact of 9/11 and terrorism and what transpired. As people started to catch their breath and actually learn information about the circumstances with 9/11 and started to catch their breath with the circumstances of us going to war. And then it started to come out that President Bush and Dick Cheney and Powell all lied about the war. They lied about who was responsible for 9/11. They lied about everything that transpired. Is when the public opinion and the criticism started. And if you're going to tell me that President Obama giving people health care or gay people the right to marry is on the same level of lying and getting us into a war that lost thousands of military men and women and cost this country trillions of dollars and tens of thousands of families that were basically destitute because they had loved ones that were killed and now they had no means to support their families. You had millions of jobs that were lost in a recession that was the worst since the Great Depression. You're going to tell me that criticizing George Bush and that administration over what he did in Iraq is the same as criticizing the president over giving a bunch of gay people the right to marry? Are you insane? Republicans are so just distraught about this president and what he's been able to accomplish. And when you bring up the criticism that is thrown at this president and the fact that it's more than any other president in history, and they jump to George Bush's defense, they forget why people criticize George Bush. People didn't criticize George Bush because he was goofy. They made fun of George Bush because he was goofy. No different than they made fun of Bill Clinton or even Obama at times. Rather, he's in a gym working out, and they had a photographer who took pictures and people made fun of him, or his tan suit. Things of that nature where people made fun. That's the same as George Bush trying to open a locked door. And he's looking at the camera going, can't open it. Ha ha ha, George, ha ha ha. But the criticism that came to George Bush was after the American people went, there's no nuclear weapons in Iraq. You and Dick Cheney told us that there were nuclear weapons and that Saddam Hussein was going to unleash biological and nuclear weapons on the American people. That our soldiers, once they got close in to Baghdad, were going to get chemical weapons. Do you realize that all the inspections and all of turning that country upside down, there was never chemical weapons or nuclear weapons ever found? Nothing. Nothing. That's the criticism that came at George Bush. But even after all that, they never had sessions of Congress or a State of the Union address where people screamed at the president and called him a liar. They never had governors stick their fingers in the president's face like this and yell at him. They've never had senators say, "I'm embarrassed" or "I'm disgusted to be in the same room as this president. He makes me sick." You never had any of that happening to George Bush. At the height of the entire country and Congress finally realizing that what George Bush and Dick Cheney did was so deplorable that they could barely contain themselves, is when you had the harshest of criticism at George Bush. But even then, it wasn't what this president gets for promoting gay marriage or health care to poor people. So, you have members of Congress. You have John Boehner. You have Ted Cruz. You have these individuals talking about this president being the worst in the history, being a dictator, and he has taken executive action to make appointments and make laws and do things that amount to him being a king rather than a president, a dictator rather than being a president. And so you have John Boehner suing the president. You have individual governors of states talking about suing the president, Bobby Jindal. You have Ted Cruz shutting down the government because the president did things without Congress's approval, without their vote, without their say-so, because Congress represents the people. And when the president sidesteps Congress, the president is not getting the voice of the people. And that is what John Boehner and Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, that's what they were sent to Congress to do. Speak for the people. Well, lo and behold, we have a war now. And this Congress will not and has not voted on if the people agree that we need to go to war. This Congress has not took up a vote to authorize war and draft legislation to authorize this president to go to war and put the restrictions on what he can and cannot do while in war. This Congress hasn't done any of that. This Congress will not do any of that unless the president asks for it. That is what John Boehner said over the weekend, that he would consider calling members back to Congress off their vacation to vote and debate if the president asks for that? The president. The same president that John Boehner is suing because he went around Congress's back to enact laws. The same president that Ted Cruz shuts down the government because he goes around Congress's back to enact laws. The same president that Bobby Jindal is suing the president for going around Congress's back. These people now are saying that the president needs to ask them to vote on putting restrictions and putting an authorization in place for the president to go to war. Is that the most ludicrous thing you've ever heard? Congress is supposed to vote. And then they're supposed to enact a bill. So they're supposed to sit there with a pen and go, okay, Mr. President, this is what you're allowed to do. You're allowed to go to war in Syria. You're allowed to go to war in Iraq. You're allowed to spend this. You're allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. And here you go. Go off and do it. That's what the Congress is supposed to do. How does it make any sense that the president is supposed to ask Congress to write up a law telling him what he can and cannot do? Isn't Congress supposed to draw a bill to say to the president, hey, Mr. President, hey, Mr. Tyrant, hey, Mr. Hitler, hey, Mr. Dictator, before you go out there and start trying to think you can run this world on your own, we got something to say about it. So guess what? Here's the rules on what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. So here you go. And if you don't follow them, you're breaking the law, you're breaking the Constitution, and we can hold you in contempt and impeach you. So follow those rules. How the fuck is the president supposed to have the responsibility to call up the Speaker of the House and go, hey, Speaker, I need you to write rules to give to me? Who does that? That defies all logic in the entire world of rules. I mean, that is beyond comprehension. And when the hell did Congress need approval from the president to do anything? Especially the Republicans. The Republicans who don't get the president's approval to shut down the government. The Republicans who don't get the approval of their constituents to shut down the government. Let's face it, if the members of Congress would have required a vote from every constituent in their area to vote on a day to shut the government down or keep it open, everybody would have said, no, keep the government open. You're going to say that it could affect our Social Security check? Us 70-year-old people might not get their Social Security check? No, keep the government open. You guys want to fight, keep fighting, but only to the extent of keeping the government open. You ain't going to shut the government down to fight. Okay? You want to have a fight? Don't fight in the house and wreck the house. Fight in the front yard. But don't fight in the house. So, the constituents and the American people didn't authorize Congress to shut down the government. The Republicans did it on their own. So where was the authorization by the president? and the American people to shut down the government. It was nowhere. But the Republicans said, this is what we're going to do because it serves the purpose of our party. It serves the purpose of what we want to do to this president and this Democratic Party. We want to destroy them, and we want to weaken this president, and doing this is the best way to do that. That's what the Republicans did. And here we are, a year later, months later, and you have the Speaker of the House saying in an interview, you know, us Republicans and me, the Speaker of the House, I have the authorization to call Congress back. I have the authorization to call for a vote. I have the authorization to call for debate. But I'm only going to do it if the president asks me. What world are we living in? What world are we living in? You had hundreds of people that asked the Republicans, please don't shut down the government. You had presidential aides that went to Boehner and went to Cruz and went to people in the Republican Party that had the power to shut the government down and keep it open, and said, hey, guys, don't shut the government down. We can do this as adults. We can talk about our differences in a constructive way. We don't need to shut the government down. And the Republicans did it. But now they're saying the president should ask them to give him a set of rules on what he could do as far as the Iraq and Syrian and Afghanistan war against ISIS. That is what John Boehner said. So I'm not making this up. Okay? John Boehner is saying that the president needs to give them the okay to create an authorization for war, which puts restrictions on the president. That is the most ludicrous statement in the history of political speeches or political interviews. And it's not a coincidence that it's coming from a Republican. That is John Boehner. That is the Republican Party. It's disgusting. They're deplorable human beings. They really are. They make no sense. They are completely operating in another planet. And when you wonder why this country is where it's at, you should be thankful because we have a stock market that's at 17,000, that we've created 11 million jobs that George Bush lost, that we have health care for 10, 15 million people that never had it before, that unemployment is from 8.5%, almost 9%, down to 6%, almost 5.9%. You should be thankful that that is what we have. Because if this president had a Congress that was actually willing to work with him, who knows where our country would be right now? we could possibly have unemployment at 3%. We could actually have a stock market at 20,000. But instead, we are where we are, and that's having the Republicans throw up every roadblock there is to throw up. That's the Republicans putting every obstacle in the way of this president. And yet, this president still has managed to put this country where it's at 6 years later and dig us out of the worst recession in the history since the Great Depression, all because of Republicans. Remember that. It's the Rob Black Show. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to jump. When I say jump, we're going to jump. Okay? Daddy Mac will make you jump, jump. Crisscross will make you jump, jump. That's what we're going to do. We're going to jump, jump into news with the beautiful, the sexy Katie Summers. Somebody that really needs no introduction because her sheer beauty says it all by itself. But regardless, when we come back from watching the Honey Badger, we will be joined by Katie Summers. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Rob Black Show, and we'll be right back.
This is the Honey Badger. Watch it run in slow motion. It's pretty badass. Look, it runs all over the place. Whoa, watch out, says that bird. Ew, it's got a snake. Oh, it's chasing a jackal. Oh my gosh. Oh, the honey badgers are just crazy. The honey badger has been referred to by the Guinness Book of World Records as the most fearless animal in all of the animal kingdom. It really doesn't give a shit. If it's hungry, it's hungry. Ew, what's that in its mouth? Oh, it's got a cobra. Oh, it runs backwards. Now watch this. Look, a snake's up in the tree. Honey badger don't care. Honey badger don't give a shit. It just takes what it wants. Whenever it's hungry, it just, ew, and it eats snakes? Oh my god, watch it dig. Look at that digging. The honey badger is really pretty badass. They have no regard for any other animal whatsoever. Look, and it's just grunting and, ew, eating snakes. Ew, what's that, a mouse? Oh, that's nasty. Oh, they're so nasty. Ooh, look, it's chasing things and eating them. The honey badgers have a fairly long body, but a distinctly thick-set, broad shoulders, and, you know, their skin is loose, allowing them to move about freely, and they twist around. Now look, here's a house full of bees. You think the honey badger cares? It doesn't give a shit. It goes right into the house of bees to get some larvae. How disgusting is that? It eats larvae. Ew, that's so nasty. But look, the honey badger doesn't care. It's getting stung like 1,000 times. It doesn't give a shit. It's hungry. It doesn't care about being stung by bees. Nothing can stop the honey badger when it's hungry. Oh, what a crazy fuck. Look. Ew, it's eating larvae. That's disgusting. There it is, running in slow motion again. See? Now, what's interesting is that other animals like these birds here, they just like to wait around until the honey badger's done eating, and then it swoops in to pick up the scraps. It says, you do all the work for us, honey badger, and we'll just eat whatever you find. How's that? What do you say, stupid? Look at this bird. Thanks for the treat, stupid. Hey, come back here, says the honey badger. Birds don't care, and you know what? The jackals do it too. Look at these little dogs. They're like, thanks, stupid. Thanks for the mouse. See you later. The honey badger does all the work while these other animals just pick up the scraps. At nighttime, the honey badger goes hunting because it's hungry. Look, here comes a fierce battle between a king cobra and a honey badger. I wonder what'll happen. Look at this. There's the honey badger just eating a mouse. And then look, get away from me, says the snake. Get away from me. Honey badger don't care. Honey badger smacks the shit out of it. And the snake comes back and it lashes right at the honey badger. Oh, little does the honey badger know, FYI, it's been stung. It's been bitten by the snake, so while it's eating the snake, ew, that's disgusting. Meanwhile, the poisonous venom is seeping through the honey badger's body, and it passes out. Look at that sleepy fuck. Now the honey badger is just going to pass out for a few minutes, and then it's going to get right back up and start eating all over again, because it's a hungry little bastard. Look at this. Like nothing happened. The honey badger gets right back up and continues eating the cobra. How disgusting. And of course, what does the honey badger have to eat for the next 3 weeks? Cobra. The honey badger.